The name on the marquee has got to be Brendan Loughnane, who this past weekend at PFL 1 of the 2023 season defeated Marlon Moraes by TKO via leg kicks at 1 minute 11 seconds of round number 2. Mark, I've been talking too much. Save our audience from my voice and give us your reaction to Brendan Loughnane, the defending champ from last season, moving on in this opening bout.
I don't know if I have ever seen someone so completely decimate both legs of a fighter in the first 5 minutes of a fight. I mean, in under a round, Marlon Moraes just had zero working legs. It was wild. And I know that we have seen before how good Brendan Loughnane's kicks can be. They carried him to not carried, they were one of the keys to his finals victory over Bubba Jenkins last season. But in this instance, I'm almost like, I don't know if that was more Brendan Loughnane or more Marlon Moraes just being brittle everywhere now. Like, we know his chin is gone, but now I'm like, is everything gone? Like, I don't know how he fell apart so quickly. And it's not like it was a crazy barrage of kicks. It was just like some well-placed kicks to each leg, and it was a wrap. So, as I said, we know he has nasty leg kicks, so I will give the credit to Brendan Loughnane. And props to Moraes, honestly, because he could have quit. The dude's leg stopped working by the end of round 1. As I said, the doc was checking him out, and he was like, I'm good. He came out round 2. He actually made it interesting for a minute or so there, really tried to push a pace, but Brendan just bided his time, waited until he could pick a spot, and landed another big one to put Marlon down for good. And he picks up right where he left off here. He's already number 1 in the standings because he got 5 points here, and the rest of the wins were decisions, so they were 3-point wins. He called out Movlead, who we'll get to, who obviously is his most recent loss. You know he wants that rematch. I'd imagine a bit further down the line we may see it, but you can't start much better than that for Brendan Loughnane, and I'm sure he's thrilled to have, as much as it's a guy who was a career bantamweight and all that, I'm sure he's thrilled to have the name Marlon Moraes on his resume as a finish.
Omar, give us your reaction to Brendan Loughnane starting off his 2023 bid for this PFL featherweight title with an emphatic opening win over the veteran Marlon Moraes.
Yeah, that's about as bad as leg kicks can generally get. If you go back and you watch those leg kicks, when you are learning leg kicks for the first time, the target is the thigh, right? Like if you think of a chicken or a turkey leg, the top of that meat, that's where you want to kick, right? All of that surface area, all of that muscle that you can damage and you can kind of stiffen up and make unusable. Not to mention, it causes the least amount of damage to your own leg because you're not hitting bone. Loughnane is an animal. This man literally kicked shin on shin multiple times on purpose. There were certain times where he kicked almost the side of the knee at certain points, tried to get the back of the calf. But there were a lot of moments where he went right on the shin. And if you're going to do that, one, your conditioning needs to be on point for your legs. But the other thing is you got to know where to kick both on your leg and also where to kick on the guy's leg, right? Your opponent's leg. The thickest part of your shin bone is basically going to be kind of halfway into your shin and up between your knee. That's the thickest and the most brutal part of your shin. Below that is where it starts to get sketchy and it starts to get thinner. And that's where you really start to see guys, whenever they break their legs, you've seen it with McGregor, with Weidman, with Anderson Silva, all of those breaks happen at the bottom portion of their shin because that is the thinnest portion of the bone. That is basically where Loughnane was throwing those kicks, and he was throwing them and landing them at the top portion of his own shin. So he was hitting with the heaviest part and the thickest part of his leg on the thinnest part of Marlon Moraes' leg. And it was, dude, I was watching those, and Marlon was trying to check them. He wasn't really checking them properly. His weight was still on his leg, and he was trying to turn the angle in like if it was a check. But for things like that, man, you got to lift the leg or get the fuck out of the way. You can't be eating those, especially tons like that. There's no way you couldn't tell me that Marlon didn't feel how bad those were going to be after even 2 leg kicks. You had to adjust after that. He ate way more than he should have in that first round. By the time that round was done, you could see him in his corner, like, I think he was pulling through it, but when was the last time you saw Marlon look like that? Genuinely concerned and having to rev himself up because his legs were dead in the water. It was a great outing for Loughnane. It really gives me pause for Marlon because I don't think this was a durability thing. That, I think, literally would have happened to anybody. Anybody would have stepped into that cage with Loughnane with that game plan and allowing Loughnane to pull off that game plan, their legs would have been destroyed too. But I think where I got some issues with the Marlon performance was the IQ, was his inability to make the adjustments during the round. In the beginning of the second round, that kid came out like they shot his ass out of a cannon. He knew he had nothing left. He wasn't going to survive another couple leg kicks. So he did everything he could in the second round to try to finish it. And a Hail Mary before the fight's even over. There just had to have been better fight IQ. There had to be a better approach to that fight. I don't really know. You had to have known that that was coming. Like the guy, Loughnane's, it's not the first time the man has thrown leg kicks. You know what I mean?
No, it's
I don't know.
One of his calling cards, pretty much.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I don't know where the game plan was. I don't know what the strategy was. I think Marlon is still very talented. I don't know how long I'm going to keep saying it, but I still think he's really talented. There was nothing from that performance that makes me think physically he can't get the job done. But the choices or the lack thereof that he makes in that cage sometimes is going to be his downfall for the rest of his career if he doesn't do something about it.
Man, oh man.
Yeah. Fair enough. There were. Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say something quick.
No,
There were
please.
a couple of those. It was like 2 in a row, where it was not the typical whack sound, and it was just like that deep, absorbent thud twice in a row. And as soon as you heard that happen and then happen again, it was like, oh man, I think this is gonna go south quick. And literally, that is what happened.
Yeah. Anytime I hear that dense smacking noise, almost like you're hitting a wall.
Yep.
That really, it starts to churn the inside of my stomach. You know, there's one dude that I know from the gym who fought his first kickboxing match, not a Muay Thai match, so kickboxing, no shins, no elbow, or no shin pads, no elbows are allowed, right? Just hands and feet and legs and stuff. And he slammed, they both tried to kick each other at the same time, and they both slammed their shins into each other. And I asked him about it, and I saw it in the video, and I saw his face just go, just from the moment that it happened. And then he got back into the fight, and I asked him later, he's like, dude, that was one of the worst sounds I've ever heard. I wanted to throw up in the ring. It was the worst sound ever. That was such a real insight I've never had in my life before.